said about being the last person to speak, so it's me between you and the drinks. Right. So I'm going to talk about the environmental data exchange and the other projects that we've been running at the Digital Catapult. So I'm just going to run through very quickly what exactly we do at the Digital Catapult. I'm not sure people know about the catapults. So the Digital Catapult is a national center for rapidly advancing digital ideas. There are 9 different catapults. I'm not sure if you're aware of all of those. There's Transport Catapult, there's Future Cities Catapult, and so on. The idea is to, so in our case, we actually look at the digital economy. Now, really, what isn't digital? If it isn't, then should we care? But anyway, just moving on. So our mission, is being digital. Our mission is really to unlock proprietary data in faster, better, and more trusted ways. So that is where most of our challenges really lie. So I'm just going to run through very quickly. So just focusing on that, what we really end up with is the data value chain. Now, within the data value chain, we actually look at what are the opportunities within every vertical. So we are agnostic of the industry, but we do focus on the data value chain. Now, that will be right from generation of data, transport of data, gaining some kind of knowledge out of that, and commercializing that data at the end of that. So our main challenge areas here come about from different kinds of data. So data from Internet of Things, personal data, data that has ownership rights, data that is regulated, that people for various reasons are unwilling to share, and closed organizational data. Now, within that, so I head the closed data team within the Digital Catapult. Now, within that, we have quite a few of these projects. So I'm just going to run through the environmental data exchange and then the data catalyzer. So just kind of bringing some of our thinking together, which I think kind of binds some of the conversations we have had through the day. So why do we really care about proprietary data? There's a lot of talk about open data. Yeah, I mean, there's this whole talk about make data open so we can use it. Fine enough, but 80% of the world's data is closed, and that's growing very quickly, more so because people do not know what's in that data. If you do not know what is in that, you do not know what's the value of it, therefore it's actually closed. Nobody wants to share that. So we want to create mechanisms of sharing that data or bringing that data to the fore without actually opening it up, but actually still making sure that the value from that is actually squeezed out in any form or fashion. So, I mean, as it says, if data is the new oil, then personal and closed data is the new rocket fuel. So let's see if that actually helps us fly. But one of the biggest problems that we observed while we actually started off, and the Digital Catapult is about 18 months old, so we are fairly new. One of the things that I mean, I've been in the whole area of data for over a decade now, so without telling you how old I am. One of the big problems we always figured was data discovery. Where do I start from? If I'm going to talk about health data, what is my starting point? Google is not my starting point, right? If I want to talk about transport data, where do I start from? So taking that as an example, when we actually started looking at that, because this was around the time when we had these floods in England and so on, so we actually decided to concentrate on environmental data. So what we ended up is basically looking at the problem. So how about looking at the entire data value chain around environmental data, given that there are these flood risks, climate change, air quality issues, whether those are urban or whether those are rural and so on, irrespective of those. Looking at how exactly we can enable those data sets, those environmental data sets to be available. We actually designed this environmental data exchange, which was all about data discovery. So at its heart, it's a discovery engine. So at this point in time, we are talking about environmental data. That's why it's called the Environmental Data Exchange. But we want to scale this and prove that this is what you need for pretty much every other vertical. So in essence, what exactly is this? So it's a discovery engine that enables search and discovery of environmental data. So it enables the use of the data in various formats, and once you use that data, you can actually signpost it back. And it helps collaboration and sharing of that data. So let me actually show what exactly that looks like. So essentially, we have a CCAN platform which enables both signposting of both open and closed data. So while many of us might actually talk about, all right, there are enough organizations out there. There's environmental agencies, there's Met Office, there's BODC, there's NERC. I can just go on. There are 20 different organizations that hold a lot of these data sets, but none of them really signpost all open and all closed data sets. So we are trying to bring those elements together so as to make this a single discovery engine and single starting point. And we have a community at the top of that actually brings together the marketplace that is of the data providers and the developers so that they can actually start talking about what is the quality of data that is there. They can start using the data, and that community actually then signposts that data back into the system. Now, this is something which we launched in March, and this has been scaling since then. And we plan to kind of use that for various other projects and scale it to different verticals. Now, one of the examples is, since there's been a lot of talk about building performance data and building data and so on. So Innovate, we've just started working with Innovate UK. This is a project that's going to be kicked off in the next couple of weeks, but I was allowed to talk about this. So Innovate UK has a huge amount of low-impact building innovation, the building performance evaluation data, which we will be putting onto the Environmental Data Exchange and opening this up for a period of 3 years. We intend to have about 30 different engagement and in terms of either hackathons or pit stops, as what we call them, within the digital catapult, to bring about all these data sets and enable the use of those data sets, and so that they can actually also bring in the other closed data sets that some of you might actually have. Without getting into the detail of this is one of the largest such building performance evaluation data that exists anywhere in the world. So that's something that we are actually kind of working with them very closely. Now, the next step, since I talked about closed data, the biggest challenge around closed data is how do we actually, if that data is not shared, there's a reason behind that, and we do not need to really kind of show it to everybody. But how do we create those secure environments where we do that data analytics? So that is where we actually, that is what led us to build this data catalyzer, which is basically a strong room in the cloud. This has IL3 level security. IL4 level security is what GCHQ has, so we're fairly close. Now, what exactly do we actually do there? So we convene the data providers. We put the data into the data catalyzer. We shut the data catalyzer. And security is made available through a set of very specific controls. And there are a set of legal contracts that actually govern the IP that actually ends up with as a result of this data analysis. So we actually have this whole legal framework also associated with this. And at the end of that, we bring in our own, there's a huge network of data companies, data scientists that we actually have, that we bring on board. So essentially, we do not put our own data scientists, and we do not let the data providers use their own data scientists on it. And the results, the insights are actually shared with the data providers. Now, given this, so we have the discovery engine and we have the data analytics platform, which we actually kind of are trying to bring together to offer to various verticals to enable this kind of analysis of closed data, which otherwise was not possible. Now, while there has been sharing of data within certain verticals, the value of sharing of data between different industries is yet to be realized. And that is what we are trying to kind of achieve. To just tell you a bit more about what we have been doing around cities. So we have quite some experience and expertise working around different cities. So in Manchester, we worked around what we call as a data synchronization project, where we worked with both open and closed data with 4 city councils. Where we worked with, so we worked with various kinds of data, whether it's real-time data, whether it is data that's actually dumped in one go, and so on. And also, there's a lot of personal data that we actually also work with. We are now working with Singapore in terms of bringing together, so they have all government data and data from 100 different multinationals. And we are now trying to see how we can bring data from London and organizations from London to actually run programs over a period of 6 months, so that we can actually not just do something in isolation in London, but also kind of cross-pollinate ideas between different cities. And there are a few others that we can talk about. But since we were asked to talk about what is it that we want, something that we want to kind of take away from this is, while there has been a lot of discussions always about moving towards digital, where there's this BIM 2, BIM 3, and so on. Fine enough. We are moving away from what a paper trail was into the similar kind of forms online. How much does that really help in terms of this whole data problem that we really have? So organizations have been thinking about designing their infrastructure for IT, but it's time to start thinking about building infrastructure for data, because ultimately what is moving from A to B is data. So designing infrastructure and building that kind of culture internally into an organization in terms of design for data is what will actually drive more innovation and will drive this understanding of the value of data and understanding of what exactly is the value of some data which needs to be closed and what needs to be open. So I'll end on that note. Thank you.